As always, we're going to begin with meditation. So I invite you to get comfortable right where you are. And as you get comfortable, just allow your eyes to close. And when I close my eyes, I make it a habit to imagine that I can open my heart even more. So try that. Just close your eyes and imagine that you're opening your heart even wider. And as you close your eyes and open your heart, feel every breath you take from the tip of your nose all the way into your body. Just feel each breath. We choose to inhale deeply. We choose to exhale completely. And in your own normal rhythm, with each inhale, here you're in your own mind, God is love. God is love. So we're inhaling God is and exhaling love. Let's sit with that for a couple of moments. It's your own natural rhythm. God is love. God is love. With each and every breath. God is love. And continuing to follow your breath, feel even more love. Just imagine I can inhale love and I can exhale love. And as I'm inhaling love and exhaling love, automatically, for some reason, my hands end up right on my chest. If that feels comfortable to you, I invite you to do the same. Give yourself some love. And as you're inhaling love and exhaling love, we continue to go deeper. More love. And in your mind, just see yourself. Imagine that you can see yourself sitting in that chair meditating. And as you see yourself Now we change the mantra to I am love. Inhaling deeply, exhaling completely. I am love. And ever so gently, bring your attention back to your body, perhaps wiggling your fingers and toes, taking another very, very deep breath. And I take this opportunity to speak a word of blessing for today's gathering. Mother, Father, God, infinite intelligence, I'm thankful and grateful for the unique and specific way that God is showing up today as each of us and all of us. I'm absolutely aware that God is all there is, and I know that all that there is God. The only power, the only presence, life itself. God is all there is, but I exist. Therefore, I know I must be created in the image and in the likeness and out of the very substance of God, nothing less. And as I know this to be my truth, I know this to be the truth for everyone that is here present, that we all show up individually and collectively as God itself. And knowing that God is all that there is, knowing that we're all one with God, I know that we're all one with each other. We're all one with every person, place, and situation that exists. And so we easily and effortlessly relax into the love that God is because it reveals itself as each of us and as all of us. There's a unique and specific way that God is showing up today as our very own Reverend Alfreda Lanoix and as our very own Tiffany Lanoix. Our own Faith Rumor shows up in a unique and specific way, bringing us insight, revelation, healing, and transformation. We get to relax in the loving arms of Spirit so that after this service, we get to light up the world, and the lighting comes from the inside out. This is a good day. This is a good service. I know that all is well. I know that we're blessed and a blessing, and the world is made a better place because we kept this divine appointment. So I let go and I let God guide and direct us from glory to greater glory. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I let it be. And so it is. Amen. Welcome, welcome, welcome again. So glad to see everyone. We've got a great topic. We are continuing a conversation about building, affirming communities together, and specifically highlighting the importance and the role of allies. So we'll get to that in a moment. But first, I would like to invite our very own Reverend Tom Hennessy to lead us in Namaste as well as our mission statement. So as Reverend Tom is speaking, you can read aloud in the comfort of your own home and own this. Tom.
Okay, everyone, the mission statement here. But first, let's do Namaste, which is putting our hand on our heart and just bow forward and just say Namaste, which means I salute the God in me salutes the God in you. So as we do that, now let's go to our mission statement. Inspire is a spiritual community of like-minded souls committed to walking our talk in joyous fellowship by demonstrating the power of love, compassion, and non-judgment every day in every way. Recognizing the divinity of all life, we stand united by actively liberating humanity by healing judgment, fear, and shame within ourselves. Our intention to create world peace, piece by piece. Woohoo! Okay, now back to you, Derek.
Again, we are continuing a beautiful, beautiful conversation. Our last service was a conversation about LGBT allies and what's changed in the LGBT community, specifically looking at education. And so Reverend Frida was inspired to continue the conversation. And so she invited her very own daughter, Tiffany, who is a champion ally, to speak with her to continue the conversation. So they're going to go back and forth. They each have questions for each other. And then after Reverend Frida and Tiffany are complete, then we'll open it up to for questions and answers. So if there's anything that you want to ask either one, just remember at the end there will be a time and a place for that. You all know our very own Reverend Frida. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Tiffany. And Tiffany, correct me if I say anything wrong, okay? Um, Tiffany Lanoix, professor of sociology
Lanoix,
at
Lanoix.
Lanoix, sorry. Thank you. Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. Professor of sociology at West LA College. She's the Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Anti-Racism faculty lead for the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges. She's the co-faculty lead for the culturally relevant pedagogy. Say that for me.
Pedagogy.
Pedagogy practices grant at West LA College, and she's the diversity, the DEI consultant for state and nonprofit organizations throughout the country. Tiffany is definitely a grand ally. We appreciate you, Tiffany. And so I'm going to go ahead and ask Reverend Frida to take it from here.
Wow, thank you, Garrett. But more than that, she's my daughter, you guys. So I am so excited about having her on and being able to have this conversation with her. You know, I feel so honored when me as a parent, I'm able to learn from my daughter. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, to be open. And so this is just going to be a conversation between her and I, and you guys get to listen on. And then, of course, as Garrett said at the end, you can have your own questions. So I want to start off by saying the question about when I came out, how difficult that was for me to come out. And especially as a mother, coming out to your children, for me, was one of the hardest things that I've had to do, simply because as a mother, as a parent, we want to be the ones to protect our children. We want to be the ones to enhance and support our children, never to be the one that we feel that would bring any type of shame or any type of a light that was not bright on or into our children's family. And so there was just this roller coaster of emotions that I had to go through before I got to a place where I had to become comfortable with sharing this deep, dark secret of who I was with my children. And so, you know, it was sometimes I went through joy, fear, pride, anxiety, all of that. And so my question to you, Tiff, is when I came out to you and you being a straight person, how did that feel for you and how were you able to deal with that?
Hello, everybody. So I think context is important. And I was pretty young when you came out to me. I
Yes.
think maybe I was like 7 or 8,
Yes.
something like that. So I know I had an initial negative reaction. I don't even think I knew really what gay or lesbian was, but I had been socialized enough in our society to know, well, it's a bad thing, right? And so I know I had an initial negative reaction. I think I said I wanted to go live with my dad, which was like completely not true. Like I didn't. It was just my way of like expressing my anger in the moment. But I do remember getting over it like fairly quickly. And once I got over the initial shock of my mom is something that, you know, I've heard is a bad thing, but I don't think my mom is bad. So how do I reconcile like these two things being true at the same time? I think I got over it pretty quickly with you. I do know though that I was still aware that it was something that wasn't accepted in society. And so I don't think it was until maybe I was in middle school. Oh, my best friend actually just entered the room. She was one of the first people, April. She was one of the first people that I told of my friends that my mom was, at that time we said gay, right? That my mom was gay. And I remember April saying to me, "Stop joking. Why are you joking? You're always joking around." And I'm like, "No, April, for real, my mama's gay. I promise you." Like, I'm not lying. And April was so accepting and so loving. And, from that point on, I remember telling more and more people. And I got to the point where like I would meet somebody and like within 5 seconds, I'd be like, "By the way, my mom is gay. I don't know if that's going to you or not. But if it is, let's just break this off right now and move on with our separate lives." So I think that me being so young made it easier for me to accept, even though I was still concerned with how other people might view you. So it was hard, but manageable.
Right. I know your brother had definitely a totally different energy and approach. How did you ever have a conversation with him? Or
I do have these faint memories. And so he's 8 years older than me. So if I was 7, 8, he was like 15, 16, and that's a totally different stage. And I do remember a couple of times him kind of teasing me about it, like using it as a way to kind of like make me feel bad or just be like a big brother, and just kind of tease me. But it wasn't anything that ever became like a huge sticking point between us or anything that we really talked about that much. But I do remember a few instances of that, but that was it.
wow, wow. And I definitely remember you outing me more than I outed myself.
Yeah. Here's my mom. She's a lesbian.
Okay, so it's easy for someone to call themselves an ally, but this oppression and this thing that we deal with never takes a break. How do you address the prejudices or the discrimination against gay people or against all people, your coworkers or your friends? Are you able to be able to deal with it, to address it, and how does it impact you?
Well, I mean, I take being an ally very seriously. I think being an ally means a few things. I think it means taking care of the people in the community that you're saying that you want to support. I think being an ally is a position of action. It's a position of doing things. It's not just saying I support the community, but showing that you support the community. So that means, if you hear that there are political things going on with regard to the LGBTQ community, things that are happening in the news, you want to reach out to those community members. "Hey, I heard this going on. Are you okay? How is it making you feel? Do you feel safe? How can I support you?" I think as an ally, it's really important to make sure that you learn about the needs of the community. You don't wait for the community to tell you, but you do your own research. You do your own digging to find out what are the needs, what type of discrimination, what's the oppression, right, that this community is experiencing. You do that on your own. You want to definitely encourage others to join you in being allies. I think it's up to allies to talk to other people. People with privilege have to use that privilege, right, for the benefit of those without it. So I think it's really important for heterosexual people to talk to other heterosexual people about allyship. It's not up to the LGBTQ plus community to do that. So that's really important to me. So if I hear anything, if I hear a coworker, if I hear a student on campus, a student makes a comment in the classroom, I'm never going to ignore it. I'm never going to overlook it. I'm always going to address it publicly, not even like, okay, after class, I'm going to talk to them. No, because there could be queer students in my class. There could be queer people at my job that heard what that person said or saw what they did. And they need to know that they're not alone. And I'm here with them to make sure that they're safe and to make sure that if they do face discrimination, oppression, prejudice, that I'm going to be someone that can be strong in that moment, because I know it's not easy to be strong in those moments when the discrimination, the oppression is directed at you. So I'm always going to be vocal and visible about my allyship. I think that's really, really important. I was walking across campus one time, and a student pretty loudly used the F word, the F slur, and I stopped him right where he was with his friends and addressed it with him, because again, you don't know who's around, who's walking around, who's going to hear that and then not feel safe on our campus anymore. So I think it's so important to be visible, to be vocal, and to use my privilege as a heterosexual person. I feel more empowered and I feel safer doing that.
Wow, wow, that's really powerful. Have you ever thought that maybe, maybe just a little bit, that maybe your mom being gay is wrong or being queer is wrong? I mean, has that ever crossed your mind, and you had to like make peace with it?
No, it really never has. I mean, again, I had that initial reaction, which was really about what I had been taught by the outside world. But when I really thought about it and tried to put the pieces together, okay, I'm told this is bad, but I know my mama's good. Like, I know my mom, like, I know her, and I know that she can't be the things that I'm hearing about these people. And so I decided to go with the knowing, with my experience, with me knowing my mother and all of the LGBTQ plus people I had been exposed to, even unknowingly, right? Up to that point, I decided to go with that. And really, I mean, thinking about me being a professor, thinking about, all the work that I do, that really was the seed to all of it, because what it did was it really helped me become a critical thinker. Because it was the first instance that I was being told something that I knew inside myself was not true. And so it made me then stop and say, you can't just accept what society is telling you. You have to think for yourself, and you have to question things. And so, so much of who I am, I think, really starts from that seed of that critical thinking that was implanted because of my experience.
Do you think that part of your experiences of giving you the courage and the ability to, like you say, be a critical thinker and to step up for yourself has to do with maybe because I had the courage to be truthfully who I am? Do you think that impacted your life in a positive way?
Oh, absolutely. I know that coming out was really hard, but I think once you did it, the liberation that you felt and that we could see, it was undeniable that it was who you were, and that you were a better person because you were able to live on your truth of it. And once you were able to do that, it was like, I'm not just gay, I'm proud to be gay. I love being gay. Being gay is amazing. And so that really taught me, not only is society wrong, that it's a bad thing, that's not true, but it's awesome. It's amazing. It's another element of like the diversity of humanity that really should be celebrated. So I definitely feel like I've been able to celebrate you because I saw you about you celebrating yourself.
Yes, yes.
So when you celebrate yourself, it's a model to other people to say, you have to celebrate me because I'm celebrating me.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that, we became so involved in the LGBTQ plus community and community work in the church that you were involved in, Unity Fellowship. And we were just involved in so much that was about celebrating being LGBTQ plus, that there was just, you had no other option but to get on board, if you're going to be part of that community. And I was choo-choo. I was definitely.
You know what? Because I knew that you accepted me, but what made me really understand how you celebrated me was when you would be the professor over the gay clubs.
Oh yeah.
And then you would have me come and speak. You would be like,
Yeah.
Mom, I want you to come and speak to my gay and lesbian community club. And I knew then, I was like, oh my God, not only does she accept me and love me, but that girl celebrates me.
Yeah, I want to show you off.
Yes, yes.
Look at my amazing mother who like happens to be gay, who is gay, and can come and speak about being gay, being Black, being a woman, and share with the youth, about your experience. But yeah, always, yeah, celebratory, proud. And it really, a lot of it has to do with how you carried yourself, it's like, I want to share that. I want people to see that.
Because, I think what's important and that a lot of people don't understand is that, like the relationship that you and I have, that relationship is built off of honesty and truth. And if I could not be who I am, then we could not have a relationship that's built off of a solid foundation. That's what's so important about being true to yourself, celebrating who you are, because then you're able to have open, honest relationships. And it teaches your kids also that if they encounter difficulties, because you will encounter difficulties in life, but you have it within you, the courage to stand on your truth. So yeah, our relationship is so magnificent and divine simply because we have the courage to be totally truthful and honest with each other. Now, what do you think that we could do as queer people to recruit more allies?
My son just made it home if I'm kind of looking over for a little bit.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm speaking my truth, right? I'm speaking from my own perspective. And I really don't think it's up to queer people to like create allies. I don't think it's up to queer people to like recruit allies or, well, what can we do to make sure that we have allies? I mean, we're talking about human rights. We're talking about doing the right thing. And people shouldn't have to be convinced of that. So, I don't know. I don't know that I would say that there's anything that queer people need to do to create allies or make allies. I think it's something that is really the responsibility of heterosexual people in any system of privilege and disadvantage. It really is the responsibility of those with the privilege who have more opportunities, who have who feel safer, who have all those benefits. It's really their responsibility to use that for good, and some people might not agree with that and think there are things queer people should do or could do, but I really think it's on us. It's the parallel. We could draw a parallel between that and saying, like, how can Black people convince white people to be allies? I don't think a lot of people would say Black people need to do that, right? I think most people would say white people just need to be allies. Like, it's their responsibility because they benefit from the system of racial hierarchy. So that's my take.
Love that. Do you have any questions for me, darling?
I actually do. I might have thought about this beforehand. So my first question is, did you raise me with the intention of making me an ally to the LGBTQ plus community?
Absolutely not. I raised you, hopefully to be non-judgmental. I raised you to be open to all people. And it was very important to me that you be approachable. And more than anything, hopefully, I raised you to be kind. Those were the characteristics that were very important to me. That you, are able to be open and to accept people and to be kind and to be approachable. To me, I don't care what education you have. I don't care what types of degrees you have. If you're not kind, if you're not approachable, to me, it defeats its purpose. So that was my intent. was to install in you the characteristics to be kind and loving.
All right, so I have a question that kind of connects back to the last question you had about me, about, what's something that queer people could do to create allies. I think really the question should be flipped, right? And it's, what can we do as heterosexual people, right, to be better allies to the queer community? So my question is, if someone wants to be an ally to the Black LGBTQ plus community specifically, what are some things that you would say they could do? And is there something you wish they knew?
Wow, that's a big question. I think some of the things, if they are very much so concerned, right? If they are concerned and they feel like, wow, I know that these people are not necessarily being accepted, these things are happening. What could I do? I think one would be to just simply kind of learn a little bit about who we are and, what are some of the things, the challenges that we have. What are some of the things that we have to face? What does discrimination look like on a daily basis? Like even as simple as, well, can be very difficult, but even like bathrooms, right? The discrimination with bathrooms now that they have all gender and, just, really begin to kind of educate yourself to know what are some of the challenges that we have to face, and to be able to, like you said, to be able to step up and step in when an opportunity creates itself. It's very important that you feel comfortable enough that you just don't let your friends have these gay jokes or jokes of discrimination against people, but that you have the courage to step in and say, yeah, you know what, that's not that funny. So to me, and also, I don't know, go, I'm not going to say go buddy with a gay person or queer or whatever, but just be open, be open to extend yourself for friendships, because you never know where that's going to take you.
Mm-hmm. Now, have straight allies made a difference in your life? And if so, in what way?
Oh, my number one ally. Okay. You absolutely made a difference in my life, because even though, you're out, even though I'm okay with my sexuality, even though I'm comfortable, but when you live in a world that is constantly telling you that you're not okay, that is constantly showing you that who you are as a lesbian, as a Black woman, that you that this world does not belong to you, that this is not your birthright to have joy. When you have allies and they are encouraging you and they support you and they accept you and celebrate you and love you for who you are, absolutely that makes a difference. Because sometimes, and I said this earlier, the oppression is constant. And even though, you're strong and you stand, there comes a day, there comes times where it just becomes too much. It becomes overwhelming, And so when you have an ally that encourages you, that supports you, that sees you for who you are, then that absolutely enriches your life. And that's what allies do for me.
Mm. Now, are you able to develop close relationships with heterosexual people who aren't allies to the LGBTQ plus community?
This is what I believe. I believe that we are all doing our best. I believe that even though we might know better, doesn't necessarily mean we do better or we be better. And so people are operating out of where they are. That's all that they can do. You can put your expectations on people. You can say, I can't believe they don't have the ability to accept me for who I am. But people are dealing with their own stuff. We all come from our own life stories, our own oppressions, our own sometimes inability to evolve. And so I can absolutely be okay with a straight person and accept them for who they are and love them right where they are, as long as they are not, intentionally doing something to damage, to hurt the gay and lesbian plus community. But just them not accepting who I am, I'm okay with that. I remember, when I came out to your brother, my son, and he was like, "Nope, I'm not dealing with it, Mom. I don't like it that you're gay, and I'm not going to come and see you, etc., etc." And I had to be okay with that. And I said to him, you might not be able to accept me or love me, but guess what? I can love you and accept you right where you are, because I knew that he had to figure it out for himself. And in being able to do that, of course, I left that avenue open. And as he figured it out, and when he came back and we decided to have this relationship, it was a relationship that was built off of truth. And so it was a good and beautiful relationship. So yeah, sometimes you just got to accept people where they are and be okay with that.
Yeah, that's the area of growth for me. And honestly, I feel like that's kind of like the job of an ally, right? Like that's a great position for you to have, like, as a queer person, because if you're going to take on like every time someone's not accepting, then that's damaging for you. That's going to wear on you. But I think, the position of an ally is to take those people to task a little bit. It's not the job of queer people to do that, because that's taxing, that's draining, that's too much. But if you are, again, in the position of privilege, then you have more room to do that. You have more space to be able to do that. And so I think it's important for allies to, love, accept people, but take them to task, right? Push them, to
That's
try
the
to be on
perfect,
the right side.
that's the perfect example of why allies are needed. That
Yeah.
is a perfect example, because
Right.
sometimes just being authentically who I am as a gay woman everywhere I go can sometimes be overwhelming, because you don't come out just one time. You come out over and over and over again. I remember taking this class. It was called the Black Women Foundation, and I wanted to be a part of it. And women were going around the room and they were introducing themselves, da 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 da, I'm this, I'm that, and whatever. And so when it came to myself, I said, I'm a mother of two, I'm a grandmother of three. Oh, and by the way, I'm a lesbian. Because it was very important for me that if you're going to establish a relationship with me, that you know who I am. Because before, you would establish relationships with people and they would like you. They would be like, "Oh my goodness, she's so nice. She's so kind. I love her." And then you'd have this, "Oh my God, when am I going to tell her?" So now I just like, "Hey, this is who I am." And you get the choice to say whether or not you want to be a part of my life. But yes, that is so important why we need allies, because sometimes just being queer by itself can be overwhelming at times.
Yeah. Yeah. I do not want to go and talk to white people about how not to be racist. Like that takes a lot out of me, and so I don't want queer people, right, to be put in that position either.
Yes, yes, I love that. Is that it?
We're ready for some Q&A?
I think we're ready for some Q&A. And so right now we're going to turn it back over into the hands of Garrett for the Q&A if you have any questions.
Well, you guys, that is so rich. And it really is such a pleasure to be in the presence of both of you, just to see the love, to feel the love. And just being in your presence, it just melts away any otherness. It's just love. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. We do have some time for questions and answers. So if anybody has anything in particular to ask either Reverend Frida or Tiffany, go ahead and raise your hand. Click that little button at the bottom where it says reactions and then click raise hands. And then when I call on you, I'll invite you to unmute yourself and you can ask a question. Our first is Kathy. Kathy, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, first of all, I want to say just a lovely, lovely conversation between the two of you, and just really profound comments from Professor Lanoix. I'm just very impressed with how you talked about allyship, how we shouldn't have to convince someone to kind of be on our side. And I like what you had to say, Reverend Alfreda. My own experience is when I started working in the environment that I work now, I work with a lot of diverse people that aren't necessarily out. There was a coworker that was kind of talking I don't want to say poorly, but was trying to talk about my truth. And I was very open about who I am. I'm like, yep, I am as gay as the day I was born. And I've been out and very open and very verbal about that since. And I just vowed to myself that I'm not going to be in a room where I feel uncomfortable to be myself. And you don't have to necessarily like me, but you do have to accept who I am. And I just wanted, my question is to you as far as allyship, when somebody is as open and as out as myself, and I can be very verbal, does it help allyship or does it kind of deter, like, oh my God, that lady is just way too, I don't want to say aggressive, but I'm very much like, you can talk about your husband and your family life, et cetera, et cetera. I should be free to do the same. But does that help with allyship, or what do you say to something like that?
I think it absolutely is about you and what makes you comfortable and what brings you peace and brings you joy. And if you want to talk about your partner, just like a heterosexual will tell you all about their little ugly boyfriend or girlfriend, whoever, and be so proud about their little ugly person they got, you should be able to do the same. So I don't think that it would help or harm either way. I think an ally sticks in their allyship no matter kind of what's going on. And an ally would understand if you didn't feel comfortable doing that, right? Accepting and supporting you doing that. And if you do feel comfortable being more open and honest about it, supporting you in that. It only maybe feels aggressive, quote unquote, because it's not the norm. It's not what's expected. Again, a heterosexual person can talk about their partner all day long and nobody bats an eye. It only seems extra, like, am I being extra? Because it's not necessarily the norm in society. So I would say you have to be who you are and what's comfortable for you. And an ally's job is to support wherever you are. So if you don't want to say anything, an ally shouldn't be like, you need to speak up, you need to come out at work. No, an ally needs to accept you where you are and what's comfortable for you. So go on and tell them about, your partner, Kathy. We love it.
Beautiful. What a rich answer and what a great question. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Kathy, for the question. Next, we're going to go over to Poland. Annalise, so good to see you here. I invite you to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question, Annalise.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, Tiffany. How are you? I'm actually American. I know your mother very well. We're both graduates of a program. So, I have so much to say. I'm in Poland. This should tell you a lot, right? So actually, even being with 23 folks and probably more than half of a minority is quite interesting. And I can't help but think that even this conversation is a bit privileged. I'm hearing it from an American listening in a foreign country that does not have the reputation for being very friendly toward gays, blacks, or women. Let's just call a spade, right? And I don't mean that in an ethnic racist way. And I over here it's kind of like ally, like I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, allies should, allies could, not our job. And some of the concern about, let's say, for example, the gay population here, the stereotype is that a lot of gay folks, quote unquote, are very, very confrontational. I think Kathy sort of alluded to this, kind of confrontational, this type of thing, activists. And they don't, it's either it fits in, there's not a lot of incorporation in the society anyway, or integration. So I've been a part, I've allied, been to some things, and people are so underground and so afraid that I think my question is sort of, yes, people have had to be a bit militant, Black, women, gay, all of that. How 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 do they integrate so that this is not so polarizing, and that we don't feel the need to, oh my God, I'm gay and here's what where's the integration? What do you suggest in.
Well, I think that context always matters, right? And so, like you were pointing out, we're having this conversation in a very US context, right? And for as many issues or problems that there are here, it's different in different places. So, being an ally in Poland is going to look different, right? Than being an ally here in the United States, because the context is so different. When I hear the word integration, it doesn't excite me. It's not.
It was the one I came up with, Tiffany. I was trying to think of something.
I know, and I think I know what you're getting at. I think that there is no smooth, easy way to fight oppression. I don't think that there's a way to do it and not ruffle feathers and not make people upset and not make people uncomfortable. Now, is there a spectrum there, right? Like, you could be super radical all the way to just me living my truth in my own little life, not even telling nobody, is my way of demonstrating, me bucking the system. So, I don't know. I don't think there's ever a smooth, gentle way to attack hierarchy, to attack oppression. And I think that those with power are always going to fight to keep their power, no matter how nice you are about it, no matter how gentle you are about it, no matter how easy you try to make change. Those with power are always going to be holding on to that power, white knuckling it, and so it's always going to cause ripples and ruffle feathers. And you really just have to find what is comfortable for me and what is going to bring me the most peace and joy for my life as I, do what I need to do to live my life and be happy. And, you just can't always think about, how can I do this in a way that's nice to other people?
Because one little aside, I'm actually quite, I don't want to say shocked, at Reverend Alfreda, like coming out again and again, and some of the suppression. Because if with all due respect, if you knew what was going on over here, like they have actual stickers on restaurants that say they're an anti-LGBTQ zone.
Wow.
And that's actually
And also most people think that they're alternative.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that they're very alternative and not normal people. They're actually okay. The government says that you can put these stickers.
Yeah.
So it's like that's just an aside. That's like, I'm listening to you guys and I get it. And at the same time, I'm like,
Yeah. So fighting there is going to look different than here, right?
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great question, Annalise. Always good to see you. And, it really highlights the importance of allies. And yeah, I don't want to say it's comfortable here in the United States, but I think it's important for all of us to be as comfortable as we can be in our skin, so that when we go to places that don't welcome us with open arms, we get to show the love, and they realize that we're people that love and want to be loved. So yeah, it's definitely bigger than just here in the US. Next question, Deborah, I'm going to ask you to unmute and go ahead and ask a question, Deborah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Tiff. Hi, Free.
Hi.
I find myself in a quandary as to where we are worldly today. For every 2 steps we've taken forward, we've been pushed back 4 steps. And what I mean by that is there's now more than ever the attack on diversity, attack on pro-choice, attacks on gay marriages, things that we've already fought for and won. And now the forces are trying to push us back.
Mhm.
And why is that? And what should we be doing? Of course, we know vote people into office, but I'm just baffled by why we keep going back and why all this hatred and negativity is continuing to exist when, as you said earlier, Tiff, they're trying to hold on to power, but power, diversity doesn't necessarily have to encroach upon power. You can still be powerful, but you don't have to belittle someone that's different than you. You can still be powerful, but you don't have to deny someone the choice of an abortion or what have you, or to live in a different type of neighborhood. You don't have to deny someone the opportunity to marry whom they love. So I'm just in a quandary as to why does it seem we're going back in everything and every spectrum that we fought for?
First, I want to shout out Deborah. She's my godmother, and her and my mom were in a relationship during very formative years for me when I was a teenager going into college, and they really they were a great model of a loving relationship, period, right? Not just a lesbian relationship, right? But it's so important. We've been talking a lot about parents and kids, and just modeling is just so important, even sometimes more than what you say, what you do. So shout out to you, Deb. But, I think that, you may not see diversity as a threat to your power, because for you, it's actually empowering, right? If there's more acceptance of diversity, but if you're the one with the power and you have the power partially because you're white, you're heterosexual, you're Christian, you're able-bodied, you're a man, then when you see people that don't look like you getting more opportunities and getting more power, then you perceive that as a threat to your power and your ability to control. So you have to think of it like you have to be able to shift perspectives almost, right? So for you, diversity is good. It's great for most people, right? Because most people aren't just white men, Christian, able-bodied, heterosexual, etc. So, but when you benefit from the way that things are, then when people try to change it, then you see that as a personal threat to you. And I think that's why there's always this struggle between the powerful and the powerless, or the people who are trying to get more power. And so those with power will never relinquish it openly, like without a struggle. And so they're going to continue to struggle as much as they can to garner more and more of that power. And if their perception is that power is being taken away from them, their inclination isn't to let it go, it's to hold on to it tighter, to fight harder for it. And I think that's what we're seeing. And I think that's what we see over the history of this whole nation, this fight among the have and the have-nots, and this constant back and forth battle. And I think that, the position that people have in society can help justify their position, right? So if we're trying to, if someone wants a society where women have less power than men and less opportunity, then controlling their bodies is one way of defining them as less than men.
Ah,
You know what I mean? So it's
okay,
not
okay.
about we really care about the babies. No, we want to keep defining women as less than men. How can we continue to do that? One way is to say they can't even have a control over their own bodies.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So I think
yes.
it's not unique to this time. I think we get caught up in our time because we're living in it. But when you look at the long picture and over history, this is the norm. This is constant. And, you know, I don't know, was it Martin Luther King that said like the overarching bend is towards, you know, progress, but
Mhm.
in between, it's a lot, it's messy.
Yeah,
A straight
yeah,
line, you know?
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, daughter.
You're welcome. Love you.
So much work to be done in our community, and it's so important that everybody does their own part in the way that is authentic to them. So important. Luke, so good to see you. Go ahead and unmute. So good to see you. Thank you for your support of Inspire throughout the years. It's always a pleasure. Go ahead and unmute if you would, Luke.
Oh, I think you're
And we're
muted.
muted. Let's see here.
Hello.
There
Yay,
you are.
we hear
There's
you.
our
Yes.
yay.
Well, it's good to be here with all of you guys. It's really interesting to hear you, Tiffany, because my question really is specific to the African American community. I, was married a few years ago and didn't invite any of my siblings or my family actually, except for my nieces, to my wedding. And it's really interesting that they knew about my wedding. I'm actually divorced now, but they knew about my wedding and not one of them ever congratulated me.
Mhm.
Not one of them really ever. Well, one of them, one of my sisters did acknowledge that I had a husband and not just a friend.
Mhm.
But I think, I've sort of tired of like, okay, as long as we don't really acknowledge the reality of what is going on, then we can have some kind of peace, because I think that does go to the part of what you were saying about the power. I mean, they want to be comfortable at the expense of my being uncomfortable, and basically telling me we don't want to know that part of you. And basically affirming over and over again that there's something wrong with you. Uh, and I've just chosen to kind of step us out of that, because I don't think many African Americans are recognizing the connection between the two types of oppression, as you were talking about, in terms of allyship. So do you see that changing? What do you think will be necessary for that to change?
Yeah, I'm gonna say this over and over again because I'm a sociologist, but context matters, right? And so when we talk about allyship in general, it can look different for different communities. So thinking about allyship in the African American community, I think that, it's going to look a little different than in other communities. I think that I do think it's changing, and I do see more changes. I think just like we're seeing more acceptance and celebration of LGBTQ plus in general in our society, we are seeing that in the African American community. But I think also that even within a community that is oppressed, like Black people, that even within that group, there's another hierarchy that exists, right? And so definitely LGBTQ plus members of the Black community are low in that hierarchy, right? Have even less power, opportunity. I think that, when we look at the experiences of Black trans women in our society, and see how they experience so many layers of oppression. And we see this laid out in the, the murder rates of Black trans women and the unemployment rates of Black trans women, and, the lived experiences. It does tell us that there is something unique about being LGBTQ plus in the Black community that we have to, really address and recognize within our own community. I know a lot of people like to connect it with religiosity, that religious, particularly Christian beliefs, tend to be more tightly held among the Black community. But I think there's a lot of factors there. But I do think it is changing, and it should, and I think that will continue. And I think that we as Black people have to talk to other Black people about this issue. What do you
Thank
think?
you.
And what do I
Yeah.
think?
Alfreda?
Well, I, I do think there's been some degree of change. I just think, based on my own personal experience, I think it's still a very painful process. And I feel like there is still, in some ways, a choice as to whether or not you want some kind of marginal acceptance in your family, or you don't even have, it feels to me, the luxury of being militant, because any kind of what they perceive to be militants might be complete banishment. So I think there is a kind of, okay, I need to accept you on whatever terms I can have a sense of belonging.
Right.
And in a sense, what it's turned into, it's like, it's one of my closest friends who said, when he first met my family, he's like, they don't know who you are. And I venture to sort of say that I think amongst many of my gay male Black friends, I think they have somewhat similar experiences.
This thing is very important. First and foremost, I truly believe that we teach people how to treat us and how to respect us and how to accept us by how we have accepted and respect ourselves. And when when you are willing to pay the price to be free, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Like I remember, and I think I said earlier about when I came out and my son had issues with it. This was my son that I brought into the world, that I loved, that I supported, that I wanted everything for him, that I had never, ever not been there for him. And when he said to me that he could not accept my sexuality, that he could not love me for who I was, I had to be okay with accepting him, my son, for what he said, and be okay that to understand, because listen, when you look at our families, when you look at the oppression, when you look at the mental illness that's in our families, when you look at the struggles that our families have gone through, sometimes it's very difficult for them to accept one more thing. And for them, that might be one more thing. Now, for you, it's not one more thing because this is who I am. But I remember when I took my stand and my mother said, I will never step foot in your house, I had to be okay with that. Because I didn't listen. If she had to come to my house, and every time she came to my house, she was going to criticize me about who I was and my sexuality and who I love, I didn't want her at my house anyhow. And so I had to be okay with that. When you have the courage to really stand on your truth, but see, this goes back to also when you have really accepted who you are, Because a lot of times people are gay and they don't want to be. There's a lot of gay people that hate that they're gay. And when you don't know and don't love who you are and how you were created, and that you're okay, and that God created you just who you're supposed to be, that comes through with the choices and the decisions you make. It comes through. You can't hide it. But when you celebrate you, then you will attract other people and you will give them permission to celebrate you. And then if they don't want to celebrate you and accept you, I don't want you in my life anyhow. And I really don't care your title. Because I don't want you up close and personal with me. And I understand that you can't accept me. That's not a relationship. And if I have to change, I told my son, if I have to change and be anything other than who I authentically am, we don't have anything anyhow.
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that, and I appreciate that. I just think, I guess the point that I was saying, it's like what you said, is there's a price, and that you have to be willing to pay that price. And the fact that there is the price, to me, is part of the problem.
Yeah.
You know, like it's that and so, because I've moved down the road basically of just kind of, I have a chosen family of people who love.
Most of us do.
You know what I'm saying? And they, you know, and I've just become more and more distant. So I mean, but I just said it's the price.
I say this all the time: blood equals relative, and love equals family. And sometimes you're fortunate enough to have a relative that is family. But, you know, most of us come from dysfunctional families anyhow, if we're very honest with ourselves. This is not Sally and Jane and Spot and Leave It to Beaver. Oh, okay.
And I think too, this is kind of where allies come back in, right? So for you, you know, you've decided, you know, you cut them off for your own peace and joy and all that. Then they need to have friends, you know, or hopefully encounter people who are allies to the LGBTQ plus community. And they just say to them, you know, I didn't even go to my brother's wedding because he's gay and I don't believe in that. Then those allies need to step up and say, what? You didn't do what? Because of what? Right? And then hopefully you have allies then step in and do the work of actually like digging in, because you don't need to do that work. That's not on you, you know, and that's not fair to you. So we're tag teaming on it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow, rich. Thank you so much, Luke, for the question. We are running out of time. I have two more questions, and then I do want to be mindful of the time because some people might have things to do. Anis, you can go ahead and unmute, ask your question, and I know that our two panelists will be succinct and it'll be rich. So Anis, go ahead and unmute.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, thank you, Tiffany and Reverend Alfreda, for this wonderful, wonderful conversation. As I mentioned last time, it took me a long time to come out to myself. So by then my kids were grown, but thankfully they are wonderful, wonderful women. And we have another strong and powerful ally in Asila Calhoun, my second daughter. And anyway, I just wanted to talk about a little bit about the question that Kathy asked about the allyship, and does being open about where you are and who you are, how does that affect allies? Is it helpful or hurtful? I think it can be helpful, especially if you're just matter of fact. I'm just talking about my wife, my sweetheart, my darling, my family, just like you're talking about yours. And then I think people will get to see, oh, they're just like us. Oh, they still do the dishes or leave the dishes, or you know, go to the laundromat together, or one does this, they divide the chores or whatever. That normalizes. And I think that is really helpful for allyship. And then to your other point, Tiffany, about power, and exactly. And Glasser says there's three kinds of power: power over, which is what all the qualities of the people you described who have power have. But women, Black folks, people who are struggling, we want power within. We don't necessarily want power over. We want power within ourselves to be able to live our lives and be happy. So there's that struggle too. Anyway, I'll stop now and thank you all so much.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Our final question will be Jasmine. If I can find you and invite you, Jasmine, to unmute. Jasmine. Let's see. Okay, it looks like. Oh, yeah, Jasmine, you're unmuted. I should be able to hear you, but I don't.
Still can't hear.
Speak up, Jasmine. Maybe project towards the microphone. Oh, you're muted again.
No.
I can't hear you. What's up with your audio?
We can't hear you, but we can see you and you look amazing.
Yes, yes, you do. So we're gonna trust that whatever question or comment hopefully got answered. But we can't hear you, Jasmine, but we do love you. So thank you for being here. Thank you for raising your hand. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for the questions. Most importantly, thank you for showing up at Inspire. Thank you for showing up for Inspire. And just very quickly, I do want to remind you that your financial contributions do support the work that we do. And of course, this work is global, not just here in Los Angeles. And so at the end of this service, I invite you to click on that email that you received with the link and click the donate button. Donate in any amount. It's what's important is the love that the money represents. It allows us to do this very, very important work so that we do our part towards creating a world that works for everyone. So again, I thank everyone for being here. So much love to Alfreda, so much love to Tiffany, so much love to all of you. I'm going to pray and then we're going to go on our way and just keep shining our light. How about that? So I invite you to get comfortable in your seat once again, allowing your eyes to close, allowing your heart to open even wider. Mother, Father, God, infinite intelligence, how thankful I am for this service, for this opportunity for God to meet itself as each of us and as all of us. I'm absolutely thankful and grateful for every LGBTQ plus person, every ally that shows up purely as love. I'm thankful for this space where we get to be our authentic selves. And as Reverend Alfreda said, we get to teach others how to treat us. And so we go forward from this service knowing the truth of our own divinity, and God smiles back on us at each and every moment. I know that all is well, and I'm thankful. I release this prayer to the action of God's living, loving law, and so it is. Amen. Thank you once again, everyone. Rich,
Yes, I want to thank my daughter. Thank you, Professor Lanoix. Thank you so much.
What a powerhouse team. We've got some awesome people here at Inspire. It's a blessing. We're all blessings. So go out and show the world how blessed
Thank
they are.
everybody else for showing up. Larry, I see you. Thank you for stopping in. Oh my goodness. And the truck driver, we got a truck driver down there. Look at there. Pull that truck over, honey. Okay. Thank you. Oh, your wife. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Mwah. Tell her hello. Poland's in the house. April, my goddaughter's in the house. Thank you guys. Patty, Sam, he's always there. I thank you guys. Is that Jimmy? Jimmy's here. Oh my God. Thank you guys. Listen, thank you guys for being allies. Thank you guys for loving us and loving us just for who we authentically are. If you don't have that authentic love in your life, you don't have nothing. You are building on sinking sand. Let me tell you, because if people can't accept you for who you are when you need them, or if they will not show up. They can't show up because you can only fake it for so long. So we just want to thank the allies. I thank my daughter for her energy, for her personality, for being with me. This girl has been with me for 42 years. And I feel very fortunate and very blessed to have a personal ally in my life. So Miss Professor Tiffany Lanoix, I love you for that. I thank you for that. And I thank you most of all for being the kind and nice person that you are. You make me proud. Love you guys. Yay. Mwah, mwah.
Thank you.
Oh,
Have an amazing week, and we'll see you at the next
yes,
service.
yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.